Wee woo, wee woo, we've got elder emos or whatever the heck these people are with fully developed formed frontal lobes making jokes about wanting mentally unwell, vulnerable women. Oh goodness, Alt Talk, you really are a disappointing cesspit of controversy. If we're not arguing over who stole whose piercing layout, which, by the way, nobody has an original piercing layout. There's literal dudes out there in the alt community contributing to the over-sexualization and stereotyping of alternative women. Wee woo, do we have a conversation ahead of us today? But before we unpack that cesspit of conversation ahead of us, let me introduce myself. My name is Cowder's Life, and on this channel we do video essays talking about things we see on the internet, and then we all discuss it as a community down in the comment section below. So if that sounds like fun for you, please feel free to subscribe. We're trying to beat this here old ratio. We're gonna do it, I swear. And if you're not new here, hello again, old friend. Guess what? It's raining, which I have desperately missed. After recording this video, I'm literally just gonna go stand outside in the rain. I'm also not into yoga and have half a brain. Is that the lyrics to that song? Anyways, creepy dudes in the alternative TikTok community. Let's discuss. There is a content creator called Buddy Love. Sadly, we're not talking about Dude Love, but we're actually talking about Sheen's answer to Dude Love, Buddy Love. Basically, this is a TikTok content creator that targets their content towards like the emo or the goth, or just generally the umbrella of alternativeness on TikTok. But what makes this content creator stand out and got my attention, unfortunately, is the way he just like constantly sexualizes women in these subcultures.
Yes, I'm beautiful and gorgeous, but I'm also insane.
There's one thing finding a certain type of person attractive, right? That's all fine. But his content often focuses around objectifying alternative women and further perpetuating the negative stereotypes around them. Like being mentally ill is sexy. Oh, wow, zooey mama, that's what we want, right? Someone that's vulnerable. You would thought that fellow members of these communities would like to fight the stereotypes, but no. Time and time again, he reduces them to their negative stereotypes. Like in his infamous manifesting an emo girl with daddy issues TikTok. And the problem here isn't just the content itself, it's how he promotes a damaging and predatory attitude towards these women. And what blew my mind more is there's just like many people in the comment section being like, yeah, that's me. I think these people are older than me and this is how they're conducting themselves. Oh golly. Buddy Love just has like so many videos just being a bit of a weird fiend. But fortunately, I did manage to find one TikTok of his that I actually did agree with.
Oh hi, thanks for checking in. I'm still a piece of shit.
Well, at least Buddy Love is self-aware in that respect. Good job, buddy. No love here, though. Now let's get into the talking points. Sexualizing and fetishizing alt women. What Buddy is doing isn't just about making inappropriate videos. And this isn't me saying it's only Buddy doing it. There's so many people that have fallen into this trap, I feel, on TikTok that probably don't even realize what they're doing is spreading harmful stereotypes, right? And further normalizing it so that like people that aren't even alternative will see it and be like, well, if they're making that joke within these communities, it's okay for me to say it. No, Philip in finance, no it's not. Basically what Buddy and many other people in these subculture movements are doing, and outside of these subculture movements, just regular Joes from the outside, are all contributing to a long history of women in the alternative spaces being sexualized, being fetishized for their aesthetics. Now, example I can give of this of back in the day was there was this show called Raw Time where people could phone in and talk to the host, and there was this one host called Tiffy, I believe, and she was very young. I think she was like around 16 to 18 at this time, and lots of old creepy men would just phone up and say heinous, disgusting, sick things to her.
Raw Time.
I'm masturbating right now.
Well, I think a lot of people are. Raw Time.
Like, this is just weird. Like, how deranged do you have to be? It's people think they have such an anonymity when they're not saying it to someone's face. And the comment section in these videos is just so like diffracted and disappointing. She was only 17 and these sick idiots were just pervs and they should be ashamed. And then the person that posted these videos was like, she can handle the pressure, she's that cool. And then someone else was like, it still shouldn't have happened, which is valid, it shouldn't. There's no logical or justifiable reason for one conducting themselves like this to someone they don't know. They have no pre-existing relationship with. It's weird, it's creepy, it's odd. And then the creator of this TikTok replied, wow man, you're such a good person for not wanting this to ever happen. Shut your ass up. Like, why are you okay condoning this? Just because someone replies in a way that seems, you know, nonchalant, like they're not bothered by it, doesn't mean it's okay. They just handled the situation in a way to diffuse it as quick as possible and move on. But that doesn't mean it's okay just because they replied in a calm manner. Still, super weird, super creepy, wee woo, your moral sirens should be sirening. Goth, emo, metalheads, alt women in general are often viewed through the lens of hypersexuality because of their edgy or dark look. And Buddy's content really taps into that. He's feeding into this really harmful narrative that these women or femme-presenting people are exotic or damaged in a way that somehow makes them sexually appealing. And that is grim. That's just so foul that mental illness has been glorified and sexualized. I want my person to be vulnerable. Ooey. Stop, buddy love. More like buddy disappointment. Not only is this incredibly creepy, it's also just super freaking harmful to further normalize this. Having actual pillars of these communities further perpetuating these horrid things within society. And once again, I should always note that, like, do I think buddy love is some evil sort of level 6,000, you know, predator from Alien vs. Predator, or just a predator, a human predator? Say predator more, cow. Predator, but no, not really. I just think these jokes are so normalized, people don't really understand that they're not funny, and it's super weird. Like, we've seen now lots of other content creators, you know, fall into this trope of making jokes about, like, goth, dommy, mummies, or whatever weird things. And do I think those content creators are also weird, heinous people? No, not really. I just think these things have been normalized to the point where if one doesn't think critically about what they're saying, they will just further perpetuate these things themselves because it'll get a cheap laugh and it's funny. But really, when you think about what you're saying and what you're normalizing, not swag, not cool, and I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable. It's a shame, right? Because women in these subcultures already face so much critique and so much judgment from people outside of their spaces, people in the mainstream. You have to deal with, like, the old creepy men on the street being like, do you worship the devil? Or just something dumb like that. And now you got to deal with people, wee woo, they're in the house, the call's coming from within the house, they're in the same house as you. Not literally, but they're in, like, the same subculture house as you. Buddy love throws a wolf in sheep's clothing. We thought he was a fellow alternative sheep. No, that's a wolf. He's just here for his own perverted gain. But, like, what makes this conversation tough is then, because people clearly see the comment section, there's lots of people going along with it, saying like, well, Cal, there's clearly some people that are okay with it. But I think that's just people that are falling into the trap themselves and they don't realize why it's problematic and not cool. Mental health should never be sexualized or glorified. If someone is struggling, you should give them resources to, you know, help them out. Not be like, so you didn't have a father figure, huh? My time to shine. Wayo, it's about to get wicked in here, playboy. Like, no, come on, buddy love. Where's buddy empathy at? He's banging on the door to get out, buddy love. Unintentional. And I feel like also should mention, like, I know some may also point out that buddy love's content is satirical. I think sometimes, yes, it's clearly satirical, like in this TikTok, where he's doing like a Saki tutorial of, you know, how to court someone. But you can't tell me this has any hints of being a satirical piece of content. Yes, it may be done in like a light-hearted way, but it's still just a weird joke to make. It's just kind of like when like a boomer teacher at school tries to make a joke and be relatable, but it's just really out of touch and just not funny, and everyone's just a bit like... Or like when an old-ass relative makes an inappropriate joke at a dinner party and he's like, well, gonna have to wheel you out now, grandma. That's not an okay thing to say. This is not the 50s. And other people have also tried calling buddy love out on TikTok because of these videos. Even these ones where you could argue he's being satirical, just because people think it's weird in general to be making this type of content, right? No sane woman would ever want you. Hi, to everyone liking this comment, just so you know, he basically made a video reply basically fetishizing mentally ill women. Yeah, he's done this time and time again, but then he deletes the videos, probably because he gets backlash. He's like, well, I'm just trying to be funny. Well, buddy love, your joke was funny, like, never, but maybe in the very beginning when it was a super self-aware joke, perhaps in its origin days, but now it's really overused, especially by, like, Steves and Phillips and Kyles in the fucking finance industry, that it all just feels very gross and grim. This type of content, satirical or not, light-hearted or not, reinforces that these women are objects rather than people with feelings, thoughts, hopes and dreams. And this sadly will further perpetuate this kind of toxic behavior towards women in the alternative communities, both online and in real life. Intention goes out the window online. It's how things are interpreted. And if you're reinforcing bad things, it doesn't really matter if it was a joke. I was just being silly with my friends. It's not only your friends that are gonna see this. It's not like a closed off circle joke. You put this out to the whole world. So it should be up for critique. My next talking point I'd like to discuss is like the harmful impact on women in the alternative communities, because the impact of this type of content goes far beyond just TikTok. Many women time and time again have spoken out about how they've been treated in real life situations simply because how they look. I did a video on the goth subculture. I was discussing it and its evolutions on TikTok, and so many people in the comments section gave harrowing stories of the treatment they experienced from men just for looking gothic. They weren't seen as humans. They were seen as this pedestaled, fetishized concept, this object that they must claim and acquire. And now it's becoming like painfully even more aware that you're not even safe with other members within your communities, right? They're often facing harassment, with people assuming they're easy or have emotional issues that can be exploited. And this is all thanks to the type of content Buddy Love makes, and the type of content that so many others also make, stereotyping alternative women. And like, when you combine this with content that specifically references things like daddy issues or other vulnerabilities, it's clear that Buddy is playing into like the worst type of objectification, because they're not just dealing with being sexualized, they're also dealing with being stereotyped as emotionally unstable. And this, of course, will make them even more open and vulnerable to harassment online and in real life circumstances. Next, I would just like to discuss alt-talk and its battle for authenticity. Alt-talk is like the umbrella space where people from like the goth, punk, the hardcore scene come together to share music, fashion, thoughts and opinions, and just like real genuine self-expression. But on top of that, as a collective, it's also a place where the community is constantly battling and fighting for authenticity. The whole point of like the alternative communities and spaces is to break away from mainstream norms, and included within that is the objectification and sexualization of women. But Buddy's content just goes against that. Bro is just like the bleak reminder that just because someone looks alternative, friendly and cool doesn't necessarily mean they are. He's not just a creepy guy, he's undermining the principles of respect and self-expression, which is what these subcultures inherently stand for, right? There's like a real problem on apps like TikTok where there's such a clear, obvious battle between creators who actually respect the subcultures, who are actually interested in them, who enjoy talking about them, who enjoy educating about them, and just enjoy being part of their scenes. And then there's also this other type of creator who just wants to exploit it for attention. And unfortunately, I feel Buddy, whether intentionally or unintentionally, is in the latter camp. He is just exploiting it for his own personal gain. While many creators in the alt-talk sphere use the platform to build like positive, inclusive spaces, people like Buddy create places of such toxicity by reducing alternative women to objects for his entertainment. So who do you reckon your demographic is there, Buddy Love? Other absolute teapots and other culinary devices, you absolute menaces, and people that are probably genuinely vulnerable and don't realize the toxic things they are also feeding into. So like, at this point you're probably thinking, Cal, you're just yapping. What do you actually suggest and recommend? So my next talking point: what can be done? Holding these content creators accountable. The first step is to, call out this type of behavior. Holding content creators accountable for their actions is crucial, especially when they're literally contributing to harmful stereotypes and toxic behavior. Content creators with platforms like Buddy, whether they want to acknowledge it or not, have a responsibility to their audience, and they should always be mindful of that. If they're using their platform to exploit others, it's up to the community to, call it out and be like, hey, Buddy, this is not very loving of you. This is Buddy no love. This is Buddy self-absorbed and weird and creepy. Don't like it. But also with that, I always do want to stress and say this should never be like a witch hunt of being like, let's destroy his life. Let's find out where he works. Let's contact all of his family and relatives. No, there's never a need to dox or ruin people's incomes for something like this. I think, yes, what they're doing is problematic. Yes, they're making toxic jokes, but it doesn't warrant someone's life being destroyed. I find there's this real horrific side to like cancel culture and trying to hold someone accountable now, where their instant reaction is just to ruin people's lives, which makes no sense. Like I said very early in this video, I think Buddy probably falls into these tropes and he just has heard this humor and it's been so normalized, he doesn't realize that it actually has real implications on life. It's not just a silly, harmless joke. It has real world influence and it normalizes things. And yes, while it might just be a funny, silly haha with your mates at the pub or the bar, it slightly reduces how seriously you take something. And that was me turning down the dial on how seriously you take something. And we never want that to be the case with things like this. You always want things like mental health and people's vulnerabilities to be taken seriously, right? Not as like a sexual exploit, because that's freaking disgusting. It's as simple as, calling people out, and if you have the mental energy to, comment just like, this is a weird joke to make, maybe don't make this joke. Not finding out where he lives and where he works and contacting his legal guardians or his next of kin. Boundaries, everybody, please. Also, another way to just combat this like negative content like Buddy loves is to champion and support content that actually empowers alternative women and actually gives them a space to express themselves freely in their true authentic form. By amplifying the voices of the creators who are doing the right thing, we can try to drown out the people like Buddy Love who are just using the subculture for clout. For like my final talking point, I would like to discuss the broader issues of like the sexualization and fetishization online. Buddy Love's content really is just one example of a larger issue that exists all over social media. Women, especially from marginalized or niche communities, are frequently sexualized and fetishized. Whether it's alt women or members of the LGBTQ+ community, there is a real disturbing trend online where creators feel entitled to objectify them for views and engagement. I feel social media platforms really should do so much more to address this issue, especially on these platforms that are open to everyone. Young, impressionable individuals will see this type of thing normalized and they'll go on to perpetuate these toxic things themselves, and it becomes this problematic vicious cycle, and that's not okay. Whether through like actual just better enforcement of community guidelines or just more accountability for creators, there really does just need to be a cultural shift that recognizes the real harm in sexualizing and fetishizing people solely based on their appearance or identity. I think my final thoughts on this are, like, at the end of the day, Buddy Love might just be a dude on TikTok that makes weird, creepy jokes. But the real sad thing is he's far from being the only one contributing towards this toxic culture. We really do need to hold content creators like him and others accountable, not just for their content, but for the impact they are having on the communities as a whole, the things they are normalizing, right? And I think like whether you're part of like the alternative community or not, it's really important to recognize when content crosses the line of appreciation into the world of exploitation. And I think we all have a role in, making sure content creators who do perpetuate harmful stereotypes don't get a pass. And with that, I'd now like to pass this conversation over to you, the viewer. Let's discuss this in the comment section. Have you come across Buddy's content before? What were your thoughts on it? Or maybe you can give some first-hand experiences on this topic yourself. As you know, there's never a pressure to agree with me. This is a place for open conversation, and that is totally okay. So with that, the floor is truly yours. And for my regular followers, instead of showing you a Beyblade today, I wanted to show you one of my Bionicles. I also love Bionicles. I actually just collect a lot of things in general. And this is the one I want to show you today. If I remember correctly, because this is going back many years, I think this guy's called Tannock. And I like how his head be moving like that. He's like a... Yeah, go get it, Tannock. You're so cool. And also Tannock can like go up into a ball and he can roll around on the floor, which is super cool. And Tannock has a brain. I can show you. I'm pretty sure I used to chew on these as a kid. Just sensory-wise, they felt cool in my mouth. Anyways, thank you, Tannock, for coming to my show and tell. You're a real one still, holding it down. Yeah, Bionicles. Do you collect Bionicles? Are there any other Bionicle collectors out there? I really hope so. They're so cool. They're really just so cool. I've been your boy, Cowder's Life. There'll be another video essay here if you want to watch another one of my video essays. Say video essays more, video essays. And I shall see you all in the comment section and also in my next video, hopefully. Zooey mama. Okay, bye.